Hey everyone, today we are going to show you how to change oil on your car, specifically this 2013 Ford Explorer. But the process is very similar all across the different boards, and you don't need very many tools to do it yourself. So first of all, we'll take a look at what we need, and it's pretty simple. Jacks and a jack stand. You need the oil and the filter, of course, and then for this specific project, it's a 15mm socket or wrench to take off the drain pan bolt, and a strap wrench if your oil filter is pretty tight. So you want to check your owner's manual just to make sure you get the right kind of oil and when you should change the oil. On this one, it says to change it about every 7,000 to 10,000 miles. A lot of cars, you want to change them more frequent than that, maybe 3,000 to 5,000, but check your specific owner's manual and see what it recommends. Alright, so let's get into actually changing the oil. Alright, so the first step in changing this oil is we're going to set the e-brake all the way down, and we're going to come to the back here. We're going to block these tires because we're going to be jacking up the front of the car. We don't want it rolling out from under us. So the first step after we set the e-brake and block the wheels is to jack this up. So we'll take our floor jack, and there's going to be part of the frame right in between the tires there. Not all vehicles have that good of a mounting spot to lift with, but this one does. So we're going to lift it up in the middle right there, and then we're going to take these two jack stands and we're going to place them on either side of the vehicle on the frame in stable spots to hold it up for us. Alright, now that we got our jack stands holding it up, let's take a look underneath. Now some vehicles will have this cover shield blocking the oil pan, so you're going to have to remove it. But this one is really simple. You just twist these bolts out and it comes right down. There's going to be 3 bolts on it. We'll remove those and then we'll drain the oil. So now that we're under here and we've removed this cover, you can see the oil pan. Now this bolt right here is a 15mm. We're going to take this bolt off and let it drain into our oil catch pan. I forgot to mention, but this is definitely an important tool to have when you're changing the oil. So we're going to go ahead and put our 15mm socket on here, and we are going to start to loosen it. Make sure your socket is turning the right way when you go to loosen your bolt. Alright, we got it broke loose. So now we're going to loosen it slowly by hand. You might want gloves for this part. I didn't have any, but it's always optional and maybe a little bit smart. Now we're going to slowly loosen it and we'll start to see oil drain out. Alright, so as you can see, we got a steady flow of oil coming out of that pan. Now there's 6 quarts or so in there, so that'll take a little bit to drain. While this is draining, we're going to go ahead and take off our oil filter and show you how to replace that. Alright, so this is our oil filter on this vehicle, and it's in a pretty good spot and it's easy to get to. A lot of them, they'll be more complicated, but this Explorer makes it nice. So we got a strap wrench here. You won't always need these, but if your filter's on really tight, you might need one to break it loose. The way this one works is you put it on here and you just turn and it tightens itself down as you turn. So that breaks it loose. Now what we want to do when we start to take this off is move our oil pan to underneath it, because there'll be some oil up in the filter that we want to get down. So we'll start to loosen it. As you see there, we got some dripping. Go ahead and loosen it the rest of the way and just sit it down in the oil pan. Whoa, all right. There's that part. So, if you don't want to get super oily, gloves are definitely something that you might want to consider. Alright, so while that's draining the rest of the way, we're going to take our new oil filter here. A little trick I like to do is write on the bottom of the oil filter in a paint pen what the mileage is at right now. So I'm going to go ahead and do that so that I'll know in 7,000 miles it'll be time to change it again. Alright, now the next thing we do to prepare our oil filter is we actually want to put some oil around this seal. When you take the old one off, you want to make sure that it comes off with this seal on it, with this ring. Because if you put this one on and there's two seals up there, you'll have oil leaks like crazy. So make sure that last one comes off. And just to make sure this seals correctly, we're going to go ahead and put some of this new oil right on the seal. So just dip your finger in there and put it right around the top. Now, since this oil filter is mounted vertically, we can actually go ahead and pour some oil in here and fill this filter up, just so that the engine won't be running dry for any period of time. Now with some vehicles, they'll be mounted horizontally, and it's a little bit more difficult to get it in there without spilling it. But this one, it's pretty handy. Alright, so we're going to put the bolt back in the oil pan since this is basically all drained out. It's a real slow drip now. So normally we would take this old bolt, make sure it was clean, and just replace it. But on this one, the O-ring on this bolt that keeps it sealed is kind of cracked and it's starting to get old, so we were getting a little bit of leak around there. So what we did is we got a new plug. It's got a brand new O-ring on it, and we just want to make sure that has a little bit of oil on it so it's ready to seal, and we're just going to replace it with this one. Now you don't need to replace your oil plug every time you change your oil. This is just a special situation, but if you have to, it's real simple to do. So we get that finger tight, and we're going to go ahead and tighten that down. We don't want to go too tight because we don't want to bend the bolt or mess up this pan. So that's pretty snug. That's about as snug as you're going to want to get it. Now we're at the point where we can put the new oil in the vehicle. On this vehicle, you just remove this oil cap right at the top here and go ahead and pour it in. This calls for 5W20 and 6 quarts of it. What we're going to do is go ahead and put 5.5 quarts in right now, and then we'll test it and see how full it is. It'll probably need that last little bit, but we don't want to overfill it, so we're going to go ahead and start that now. It would be wise to have a funnel when you're pouring this, but if you're a pro or you're really not smart, you can do it without one. Alright, now that we've added those 5.5 quarts of oil, we're going to go ahead and start the vehicle and let it run for about 10 or 15 seconds. So while it's doing that, it's just circulating that oil, and we will be able to test it after we turn it off and let it sit for just a few minutes and let all that oil drain back down into the bottom of the pan. Alright, so that's been about long enough, and we will go ahead and turn it off and go check our oil. Alright, so we've let it sit for a little while. Now we're going to take this out and wipe off all that excess oil that's on it. We'll go ahead and stick it back in there. Wait just a second and take it out and look. Alright, so it looks like, I don't know if you can see that, but our oil level is just right at the bottom of this X here, of these marks at that bottom hole. So we'll go ahead and put that last little half quart in, and that should bring us up to full. Alright guys, so hopefully that helped. That's how you change the oil on specifically a Ford Explorer, but hopefully you can take some of those techniques and the basic process and add it to your vehicle. So if you like the video, go ahead and like and subscribe, and leave a comment if you want to see any other videos like this or you have any other questions. Alright, thanks guys.